Okay. Move this over, bad boy over here. Make sure, yeah, that looks good. Oakley dokley. Let's get over here. I'm gonna work it. There we go. Alright. So let's just get a few things going here. And we will be ready to go. Yes. Indeedly do. Hello, Smithy. Alright. Okay, things are looking good. Alright, let's just grab this. And we'll come over here. Do. There we go. Alright. We'll get started here in just a few minutes. This will give everybody a opportunity to get in. We'll just wait. My oh my. Hello, Ben. How's it going? Didn't even know this was still on. Let me just shut that off. There we go. It's been a week, has it not? Wasn't sure what I was going to talk about today. Decided I'd just go with what everyone else is talking about, since that's the only newsworthy thing that happened this week. We'll get going on that in a minute. Because as always, I do have a few things to say. From Ace of Hearts, A7th, greetings from Netherlands. How are you, brother? I am doing good. Getting ready to start some new medication on Tuesday. Because they have found a possible cause for why I suddenly ballooned up to over 300 pounds a few years ago. And we'll see if it's going to fix things. As it turns out, on top of being type 2 diabetic, I also, which they thought they saw hints of it before, and then it went away on the tests, so it seemed like I didn't have it, but it turns out I do. I have fatty liver disease, which that affects your metabolism, it affects how you burn fat, and it can also cause the kind of stomach attacks that I've been having over the years that even happened live on air one time here on the 7thCast. Hope that don't happen tonight. But I have some special liver pills coming on Tuesday that I have to take twice a day. That's supposed to help flush my liver out and reverse the fatty liver disease, which is supposed to improve my metabolism and make me burn more fat. So we'll see. In the least, I don't care as much about the weight loss, but in the least, I'm hoping it'll stop the stomach attacks, because, even when they're only happening every 3 or 4 months, they're still incredibly painful, and I don't like them. They hurt so bad that all I want to do is just sit there and breathe. Anyway, love your hat. Oh, my hat, yeah. Parkour. 8th bought me this for my birthday back in December. This is just the first time I've worn it on camera. So, you have 8th to thank for this. Anyway, it is Saturday. It's 6 o'clock. February 5th, 2022, and this is the 7thCast. As always, I'm your venerable host, your friendly neighborhood 7th. 8th is off in his room. Any of you who follow me on Twitter, you'll know that I said on Twitter that I did not buy Dying Light because I didn't have the money. Dying Light 2. The reason I didn't have the money is because 8th decided that he needed to have it because his friends were playing it. His friends were playing it on PS5 because none of them had a computer like 8's powerful enough to run Dying Light 2 at a decent performance level. But 8th didn't want to wait until Tuesday for a physical copy to arrive. He decided he wanted it digital so he could start playing it immediately on PS5 with his friends. So that was $60 I spent for a digital game, something I never do, so that he could play with his friends. And that's why I didn't have the money to buy Dying Light 2. Because, it doesn't appear that the game sharing thing works on PS5 the way it did in previous gens. So, short of logging in with 8's account, which can never be because of the fact that, 8th is playing it with his friends, I have no way of playing it. And that was the $60 worth of fun money that I had after having to pay for all the new meds and the doctor visit and all this. So, no Dying Light 2 review anytime soon. Instead, I'll go ahead and spoil it because, it's not like I'm reviewing a new game. There aren't that many new games out for me to review. And the new games that are coming out, Horizon Forbidden West, Elden Ring, guess what? 8th's going to play them first. So I won't be able to get those out anytime soon either. So I've just been going through games that A, I don't have to pay any money to play, and B, I haven't played before and haven't talked a whole lot about before. And so thanks to me continuing to pay for this Game Pass account, either Monday or Tuesday, a new review on the new channel. Again, new channel. DBTS, new channel, will be Marvel's The Avengers. And I got a lot to say about that game. I've got a lot to say about that game. But to the topic at hand. So it was announced that Sony had purchased Bungie. Bungie, the creators of Halo, who got so sick of making Halo that they actually talked their way out of being owned by Microsoft so they could go make something else. And what did they make? Not the earliest, but one of the earliest examples of a games as a service game on consoles. Destiny. Let me tell you what I think about Destiny. When the beta came out for PS4, I downloaded it. I played it for about an hour. And I couldn't stand it. I hated it. I deleted it. And despite the fact that I own both Destiny and Destiny 2, I have never played a single minute of either one because of how much I hated my first and only experience with it. So now you ask me, what do I think about Sony purchasing Bungie? Am I excited about it? Hell no, I'm not excited about it. Because I know why Sony bought Bungie. Because Jack Ryan wants to get Sony into the games as a service business, most likely to tie in to their version of Game Pass whenever that comes out, so that they'll have perpetual, never-ending games that gamers will pay a subscription fee to their version of Game Pass to be able to play those live service games over and over and over again ad nauseum. And I don't like game as a service games because I don't stay invested in them long enough to get to the point where they actually start to be fun. So that ought to give you a good little spoiler of what I'm going to have to say about the Avengers Monday or Tuesday. So they bought Bungie to help further drag them away from what I liked about Sony as a platform to begin with. So no, I am not excited about the purchase of Bungie. It's not like it's going to add a whole ton of intellectual property to their upcoming version of Game Pass, Spartacus or whatever it's called, because they only have one IP, Destiny. And I don't give a crap about Destiny. This isn't like the Bethesda purchase. This isn't like the Activision purchase. Those purchases, for the most part, were for IP fodder for Game Pass. This purchase was to establish Sony as a games as a service provider. And what they're going to do is they're going to take Bungie and leave Destiny multiplat for the most part, but then use Bungie to train up all their some of their other studios, maybe not all of them, but some of their other studios on what makes a successful games as a service game, and then those studios will be making exclusive game as a service games for Sony's platform. And I couldn't give less of a crap. These are games that I will, shy of reviewing them, never play. These are games that I will never enjoy. And so this purchase literally means nothing to me. Is it funny that it was a kind of a sort of middle finger to Microsoft? Yes. Keep in mind, this purchase has been in the works for 6 months. So while the purchase itself was not a response to Microsoft buying Activision, the timing at which Sony decided to announce it certainly was. And I am firmly convinced that this is going to continue. Sony has hinted that it's going to continue. I have no idea what else they might be buying. There's been a lot of rumors about Capcom and Square Enix. I don't know, because purchasing companies and acquisitions like that work a lot different in Japan. They work a lot different than they work here. It's a lot more difficult to buy out a company in Japan than it is here in the States. That being said, I don't know how good of an idea it is for Sony to continue buying up Western companies, because that's not what they built their brand on. Yes, there were successful Western games on Sony's platform from day one, but the bulk of the best remembered games on pretty much every generation up until the PS3 were Japanese games. And even in the PS3 and PS4 era, some of the best known games were Japanese games. And since Microsoft has gone all in on Western RPGs, there's not that many big Western RPG development companies out there that haven't already been bought up by somebody else. The natural, logical counter to that, since Sony for years was the home of the JRPG anyway, would be to buy up some of these smaller Japanese RPG companies and build them up. Or finally seal the deal on Square Enix, because when they buy Square Enix, you know, they're getting Crystal Dynamics too. So in that case, they'd be getting both Eastern and Western games. And it's not like Final Fantasy sells all that well on Microsoft's platform anyway. And that's another thing that I want to bring up, because have been folks that got excited about the Bungie deal for some reason. I do not know why. It doesn't amount to anything that I care about, but there have been some that have been excited about it, and they were called hypocrites because they criticized the Amazon buy, then got excited about the Bungie buy. Here's the thing. When you buy ZeniMax Media, and that gets you Bethesda, it gets you id Software, it gets you Machine Gun Games, it gets you all these different companies that have been multi-plat for years. And so then you're taking those games away from a large portion of the audience. In a lot of the cases, the majority of the audience of the previous titles. When Sony bought Naughty Dog, when Sony bought Insomniac, when Sony bought Media Molecule, when Sony bought Sucker Punch, these were not companies that had been making multi-plat games for the most part. Naughty Dog had been PlayStation only for several years up to that point. Sucker Punch, PlayStation only. Guerrilla Games, PlayStation only. Insomniac had a couple of multi-plat games. And that was Fuse and a couple of little indie titles. And, of course, Sunset Overdrive was on Xbox and PC. But everything that they are actually really known for has been PlayStation exclusive. So buying them wasn't taking anything out of the hands of Microsoft or Nintendo, because those companies had not been making games for Microsoft or Nintendo to begin with. So no, it is not the same thing. What Sony does, for the most part, is not the same thing. In this case, it's still not the same thing, because Destiny is remaining multi-plat. So don't come at me with that kind of crap, because it's not true. It's demonstrably not true. Ratchet and Clank, never been on a Microsoft or Sony Nintendo console. Jak and Daxter, never been on a Microsoft or Nintendo console. Sly Cooper, never been on a Microsoft or Nintendo console. Killzone, certainly never been on a Microsoft or Nintendo console. I can go on and on. Little Big Planet, never been on a Nintendo or Microsoft console. Sony finds companies that they see potential in. They invest enough money in them to say, we'll help fund your project, but it's only going to be on PlayStation. Those companies say, great. Sony watches them for a few years, sees how well they do. If they become a big hit, then Sony says, how would you like to make these games with us and have more money and more resources and more people, etc., etc., etc. And that's how it's gone. Not the same thing. So don't even try it. Don't even try it, because you've lost before you've even started. Now wait a second, it looks like there was a donation here that I missed. It's weird though, because I didn't get a pop-up about it. Let me check my mail real quick. Where my Gmail at? Hey. Wait a minute, I don't even use Gmail anymore. I use mail.com. I've got so many burner accounts. Hang on a second. I have lots of email accounts because I have to do a lot of different things with my job. And so I have to keep track of all these different email accounts that I use. Let me see here. Okay, so somebody donated $3. I don't know who in the chat that is, but thank you for the $3. So we're now $47 away from extending to 10 o'clock. Thank you. But anyway, I guess that was my whole point. I could not give less of a shit about Bungie or Destiny. I don't care. I don't like Destiny. I only liked the first 2 Halo games to begin with. They're not a developer for me. They don't do anything for me. They're not going to entice me as far as signing up for the whatever Sony's Game Pass ends up being. I'll sign up for it to be able to review it and try it out and compare it. But it's certainly not something that makes me excited about the service. They can keep it. Now, if Bungie was expanded to the point where they could work on these game-as-a-service games and also make a really kick-ass single-player title, then maybe I'd get excited about it. But they're not going to do that. You know, they'll say, "Oh, well, you can play Destiny solo." Yeah, you can, but it's not worth it. Just like with Anthem, just like with the Avengers, just like with Dark Alliance, just like with any of these game-as-a-service games. Yes, technically, you can play it in single player, but you don't really want to. Trust me on that. Anyway, that's my thoughts on the Bungie buyout. That was the only topic I had for today. So for the rest of the day, it is participation trophy time. It is audience interaction. And nobody does that better than me. What other stream you gonna watch where I'm answering almost every question? Not many. Not many. Hi, J-Chip. It's going all right. Hello, Master Chief. I'm surprised Destiny 3 hasn't been revealed. Yeah. Sony should either get Capcom, Square Enix, or FromSoft. Well, FromSoft's already been bought. They're owned by Katakawa, the company that puts out anime and various other things in Japan. That being said, Sony owns 2% of Katakawa. And, of course, you know, you got guys like MBG or whatever his name is saying, Sony sure is promoting FromSoft a lot lately. Well, no shit. Elden Ring comes out this month. It doesn't mean that Sony's gone out and bought the other 98% of Katakawa. I know a lot of people that want Konami to be bought by either Microsoft or Sony. You don't need to buy Konami because they don't have any decent developers left. They've more or less got out of the gaming business. They're mostly in pachinko machines and stuff like that now. Mostly what people want is for them to buy the studios, or not the studios, but the IP, and give those IP to other studios to work. So Castlevania, Contra, Metal Gear Solid. I, for one, would like to see, you know, if as an example, if Sony were to buy Konami's gaming IP, I'd like them to take Gradius and give Gradius to Housemarque, because Housemarque has proven that they can do kick-ass retro-style arcade games. That's something I would like to see. It won't happen, but that's something I would like to see. Buy Castlevania, give it to Blue Point. Eighth always hates this, but I'm always talking about how, you know, Demon Souls, Dark Souls, Bloodborne, a lot of the game functionality that's in those was in Metroidvanias, or specifically the, you know, Castlevania Symphony of the Night and the other Castlevania games that play similar to that, just in a 3D frame instead of a 2D frame. So give Castlevania to Blue Point. They've already proven they can do Demon Souls without any issues. Maybe then we might actually get a good kick-ass 3D Castlevania game, because we sure haven't gotten one so far. Those last two we got, they were halfway decent God of War clones, but Castlevania they were not. Anyway. Do you think Killzone will get rebooted now that the Halo writers are with Sony? No. No, because, Guerrilla could have passed that off to Guerrilla Cambridge, but as last I heard, they shut Guerrilla Cambridge down. And Bungie is not going to be interested in being a farming out studio for Sony. They're going to want to write their own characters and their own plots and their own stories. They're not going to be interested in picking up somebody else's laundry. Hello, Stranded J. Crownless King, I see your comment, but unfortunately, YouTube blocked it because you put wordy dirds in the chat. Oh, it was Juggernauts. Okay, Juggernauts, thanks for the $3. Hey there, Short Round. Sony buying Bungie is a huge acquisition for more than just Destiny. Sony gets a cut of the game and soon to be announced movies or TV shows. Sure, it's a multi-platform thing. But seeing what they're doing, what the rumor is that they're doing with the Halo TV show, do you really have any love or faith in a good Destiny show? I mean, the story's not that good to begin with, so... Seventh, have you heard the gaming news about Rockstar confirming GTA 6 is in development? So, they have no material to show. They made no announcement about when they expect it to be ready. When they have a release date, then I will marginally care, because as I've stated a million times, I'm not really that big into Grand Theft Auto. I tend to like things that are more fantastical, sci-fi and fantasy and that kind of stuff. And I know that Grand Theft Auto is ridiculous, but it's set in a more realistic world, so I'm not that big into it. Wait a minute. Oh, magic powers. Do you think Nintendo will buy Capcom? Kind of doubt it. Hi, Jacoby Mans from Lord 8. Yes, because I play Destiny for all the high-quality lore in the games. Who cares about a Destiny team? Exactly. And then I hate it. I assume he means when I compare Symphony of the Night to modern Souls-likes. I hate it because it's so reductionist. Well, I just I come from a different era than you, 8th. And so... when I see it, I just see it as similar to something I've played before, but from a different camera perspective. I see a lot of the similar systems. I see weapon sets and the way the shops are done. And there's just a lot of things that remind me of Symphony of the Night. I can't help it. It just is what it is. I don't ask you to agree with me. That's just the way I see them. Yes, of course, GTA 6 announced that Rockstar announced GTA 6 was in production with absolutely no information about it whatsoever, and everybody jumped and made a video about it with nothing to say. There was absolutely nothing they could say because Rockstar didn't give them anything to talk about, but they made the videos anyway to get those fast clicks and views. You will notice I did not do so because I don't care. And because they gave me nothing to work with. I'm not going to put out a video just to get views. I'll put out a video if I have something to say. Thoughts on the ISIS leader being killed? How many have been killed so far? How much of a difference has it made? No, Bungie has nothing to do with the Halo TV show. I'm using them as an example because the people who wrote the Halo TV show were given carte blanche and told you don't have to stay true to the canon. You can go off on any tangent you want, and boy are they, if the rumors are true. And what I'm suggesting is that if you're a big fan of Destiny lore, somehow, you might not be happy with TV shows or movies that are based on Destiny. I'm just saying. I have not pre-ordered Sifu. I know there's a special physical edition coming out for it, but I don't know where you would pre-order or how much it would cost. If you got the Contra IP, what company would you give it to? Well, who in, let's say Sony bought them. Who in Sony is the best at juggling multiple weapon types? Insomniac. The closest thing they have, and I know this is a stretch, but the closest thing they have to Contra is Ratchet and Clank for the weapon types. So I would give it to Insomniac to make a kick-ass 3D Contra. A good 3D Contra. I see an interesting video on Inside Gaming. They were talking about Microsoft essentially being a gatekeeper for gaming by buying up studios and publishers so that big tech won't jump in. I don't really follow with that narrative all that much. It's not Microsoft trying to protect gaming. It's just Microsoft trying to protect its own market share. It's Microsoft wanting to make sure that they are the only company attempting to do what they're doing. That's all it is. And I say that because, unlike some people out there, I don't believe everything that comes out of Phil Spencer's mouth, and I certainly believe next to nothing that comes out of Jim Ryan's mouth. Sean Layden, he's not. Yes, I've already talked about Bungie. Thoughts on the International Space Station being retired? Oh well. I mean, think about it. If they go through with their plans to put a station on the moon, do they really need the International Space Station anymore? I'm just saying. The older that thing gets, the more expensive it is to keep it up there. So, let's just dismantle it and shut it down. How could you not like Red Dead? You being from Texas, you would think you'd love it. I was not born in Texas. I was born and raised in Tennessee. I've also lived in Georgia, Florida, North Carolina. I've been around. Texas is not my first home. And I love certain Westerns. But there was just too many problems with Red Dead 2 for me to endorse it. I can't stand it when game companies put all these complex systems in the game that aren't required to play and beat the game. Because it just becomes a waste of time and money that they could have put towards improving other things, like improving the combat, the gunplay, various other things. And Red Dead Redemption 2 is certainly not the only game out there that has done this, but that's just one complaint I had about it. It has a bunch of systems that you don't ever have to use to get through the game. Let's see. No, Sony buying Bungie was not an answer to Bethesda or Activision. When Sony chose to announce that they had bought Bungie was an answer to Activision. But otherwise, it's unrelated. Favorite Clint Eastwood film? Unforgiven. Unforgiven. It's one of the few Clint Eastwood movies I've actually seen at the theater, and I loved it. Loved every second of it. Eighth getting into an argument with somebody in the chat. Ain't that always the way? Ain't that always the way? Seventh, I liked Red Dead 1 and the Nightmare version. The new one just... Yeah, I liked Red Dead 1 better than Red Dead 2 as well. I still had some issues with its gun combat too, but not on the level that I did with Red Dead 2. I don't know. Maybe as I get older, I just get harder and harder to please. I don't know. There's a lot of games that I absolutely can't stand that people get mad at me for not falling head over heels in love with these games. And Red Dead Redemption 2 was one of them. The Halo series is another. I do not know nor care what makes Next Gen 720 happy. Like I said, I played about an hour of Destiny, and there was nothing in the story that pulled me in. You know, when I played Skyrim, the story instantly pulled me in. Yeah, when I played the Uncharted games, the story pulled me in. I don't get that from Destiny. I don't get that from Halo. I know there are other people that love the story and the lore of Halo, but a lot of those people, it seems like they care more about the expanded story from the novels and the comics and whatnot than the actual game story itself. Pardon me while I turn my heater off. Getting a little too warm in here. Do you think Killzone's forever dead? Well, it is for right now. You know, they may revive it down the line. Who knows if they happen to buy a studio that actually has some skill in first-person shooters. Not saying that the Killzone games were bad, but I don't think Bungie wants to go back to it. Are there any games you've enjoyed despite it having a good amount of inconsistencies? Easy answer, Greedfall. I really liked Greedfall. Had a lot of problems, but considering what their previous games were like, that being the developer Spiders, I thought Greedfall was a massive improvement over what they had made in the past. Yes, it was an absolute clone of Dragon Age. It was very obvious that they were trying to emulate BioWare. That's not necessarily a bad thing, because I'll give you another spoiler about my review coming Monday. The Avengers, despite being essentially a 3D beat-em-up, is an absolute clone of Destiny with a little bit of Anthem mixed into it, specifically in how its loot and microtransactions are handled. When you play Avengers, the menus look like Destiny. The way everything is set up is like Destiny. It is a clone of Destiny, but a third-person beat-em-up instead of a first-person shooter. And it's not like it was homage. They straight up lifted the way the menus are set up and everything. It's a pure on clone of Destiny. Let's see here. But Greedfall, I really enjoyed it. I liked the story. I liked the characters. I liked the combat, aside from a few issues. Was the game perfect? No. I think I gave it a 5.5. I thought that was perfectly respectable for the issues that I had with it. I'm excited to play their next game. Although it does not look like it's going to be an open world RPG like the previous game. This looks more like a big open world single player, one character action type thing. We'll see. We'll see. Well, again, I am the gamer. I haven't played Dying Light 2 because I don't have the money to play Dying Light 2 because 8th wanted to play Dying Light 2 with his friends. I didn't have the money to buy 2 copies. He didn't want to wait for it to show up on Tuesday, so we are where we are. If I had another $60, then maybe I would buy it again so that I could play it and review it. I've told y'all before, when it comes to games, I always put 8th before myself. So if I want something and 8th wants something, 8th gets what he wants, I wait on what I want. Why didn't Titanfall fail when they copied Halo, just replace the aliens with robots? Well, I mean, the original Titanfall was multiplayer only. I have heard good things about Titanfall 2 as far as its single-player campaign goes, but I haven't actually played it. 8th has played it a little bit. Justin Stout, how's it going, sir? In a recent interview, Tom Holland on Uncharted says he hopes for a new Jak and Daxter. Probably means nothing, but it probably does mean nothing. Because he's just an actor in a movie version of a game. Let's see here. Do you think Destiny failed because they tried to copy Star Wars too much? Well, I mean, financially it hasn't failed. It's made a ton of money. I just didn't have any interest in the story. It's kind of hard to write a compelling story when it's pretending to be a role-playing game and you're creating a character and building it. It depending on how it may work great, it may not. They made it work in Dragon Age because your character still had a preset destiny. You were just able to choose the race and various things, and it worked in the Elder Scrolls series for the same reasons. It just doesn't work in Destiny because it feels more like one of those games where it's tell, don't show. You don't experience the lore and the story. You find snippets of it and read it. Kind of similar to the Dark Souls games. You don't really experience a whole lot of the story firsthand. You read about it in bits and pieces of lore that you find. And I think that's one thing that's funny is that, Xbox fanboys will say that Sony only cares about interactive movies. That Sony fans, they just want to play interactive movies. But then they'll tell you that the lore and the plot of Halo and Gears of War is the best storytelling in gaming. When most of them, and you can tell this by the numbers, skip the story and go straight to the multiplayer. So who's fooling who? I love all sci-fi games usually, but couldn't get on board with Destiny. And I just couldn't get into it either. And I think part of it was because to be one of the things that you have to have for one of these games as a service games is all the enemies have to be bullet sponges so that you never feel powerful enough or overpowered. And that keeps you playing to get more powerful and more powerful and more powerful. So, you'd play the game, you'd get to a character that's not necessarily even a mini boss, but it'd take you, 5 minutes of pouring lead into it when you're playing by yourself to kill it, to get that life bar down. And that's to keep you playing. That's to keep you playing so that you find more loot and you improve your character and whatnot. But of course, when you improve your character, then the enemies can be scaled up to where it doesn't feel like you're ever progressing. Aside from progressing farther into the levels or what have you, or farther into the story or what have you. And that's part of what makes it a game as a service. It's a perpetual thing. It never ends. Now, it's true, if you devote the amount of time and work into a character in a game as a service, there is always the potential of being able to develop an OP character. But are you willing to invest the amount of time it takes to get there? They say that by the time you beat the main campaign of Marvel's Avengers, that it should take you about 10 hours and that your characters ought to be around level 20 by the time it happens. I'm on the last level of the game, and I think my highest leveled character is 8 or 9, because I haven't been doing any of the side missions. I've only been doing the main missions. And I've been playing solo. I haven't done any of the co-op, and they haven't been all that overly challenging, especially once you unlock Thor. Thor's the best character in the game. The sad part of it is that you don't get Thor until right towards the end of the game. You get Thor right before the last section of the main campaign. And I say he's the best because he's the only one that when you play with him, you feel like there's some actual heft to your attacks. And, there's a little bit of classic God of War in the way he plays. But on top of that, his hammer is, to some extent, a little bit OP. Because you can just go into fly mode and hover around in circles and just spam that hammer at bad guys. And if your life bar starts to get a little too low, you just fly down, knock over a green barrel, get some health, jump back up in the air, and just start spamming that hammer again. That section on the helicarrier where you had to blow up all those giant tank things or whatever they were, that's all I did. I flew over there as Thor, and I hovered around them in a circle, just spamming the hammer until they blew up. Barely took any damage. None of the enemies on the ground could get to me. And it couldn't attack me, apparently, while I was floating in the air. Not well, anyway. So, yeah. Games as a service, folks. Now, let me catch up here. Do you believe in the Loch Ness Monster? I think there might have been something there at one point, but whatever it's long dead, because the modern iteration of Loch Ness Monster was, as we know it today, was made up by a hoax. A guy took a little submarine and glued a fake dinosaur head on top of it, stuck it in the loch, and took a picture of it. And that's the famous doctor's photo of the Loch Ness Monster. It's a fake. So, I think there might have been something there at one time, because there's several stories from, prior to the modern age different characters from Scottish history running into something in that loch. But if there was, there's, for one thing, there's not enough food in that loch swimming around to keep up a population of creatures that large. And at least not now. Might have been 500-600 years ago, but not now. There's no bones that have washed up. There's no bones that have been found at the bottom of the loch. And if there's not enough food in there to sustain a large population, then how is it still, why do we have 500 years worth of stories about it? Because there would have to be a sustained population for us to see them now. Yeah, dinosaurs were incredible creatures. They weren't creatures that lived 500 years. Anyway. Seventh, you know what would be cool is they make an Indiana Jones game in the style of an Uncharted game. It'd be cool to go back to the iconic scenes from the movies. Well, Microsoft, one of their studios, is making an Indiana Jones game, or at least they announced they were. Who knows what that might be like. They did make a Tomb Raider knockoff Indiana Jones game back in the Xbox PS2 era. I can't remember the name of it now. That might have been Emperor's Tomb or something. But it was pretty good if you like classic Tomb Raider. Not modern Tomb Raider, classic Tomb Raider, because that's basically what it plays like. I remember the Bermuda Triangle mystery. There's no real mystery to the Bermuda Triangle. It's simply this. It's probably a bad idea to sail in a boat or fly in a plane through an area that is frequently hit by very strong hurricanes. There's your mystery of the Bermuda Triangle. There is unpredictable weather in that area. Even when there's not hurricanes in the area, it can become intensely foggy. It can be inundated with a thunderstorm like that. You can take off from the runway, clear blue skies. Before you know it, bam! Your plane is struck by lightning because you just flew into a thunderstorm. That's what the Bermuda Triangle is like. Has nothing to do with parallel dimensions or space aliens or anything like that. Don't get your dumb ass in a boat or plane and fly into that area. It ain't worth it. Do you think Black Cat will be in Spider-Man 4? That was a good possibility, I guess. Let's see here. Do you believe in the Chupacabra? Had one run over my roof when I first moved here. I was sitting in the game room. And something went... fell onto my back patio. Made a weird screeching noise. I got up when looking out the window and saw something that was too big to be a cat, but was too articulated to be a raccoon, gray in tone, run in a combination of hind legs and all fours to the back of the backyard, and then jump over the fence, two-legged. Chupacabra. Or possibly a two-legged coyote with mange. Anyway. It definitely only rewards players in... Okay. Have you bought... I just said, I don't have Dying Light 2. 8th has Dying Light 2 digitally because he wanted to play it with his friends. Which meant I couldn't play it. So... no, I don't have Dying Light 2. After buying it digitally for 8th so he could play it with his friends, I don't have the money to buy a copy for myself. And Game Share don't work all that great on PS5. As far as I can tell, it doesn't seem to work at all. Not for us, anyway. Getting so sick of these little Russian chat bots. Marvel's Avengers is nothing like Spider-Man on PS4. Just letting you know, J-Chip. It's basically like the 3D version of an arcade beat-em-up that never ends, and you have loot that doesn't change the way you look. If you want to change the way you look, you either have to grind endlessly in the multiplayer or you have to go buy it on the store, because the loot doesn't change your character's look. It just changes minor attributes. No, I've never heard of sheep squatch. Where you guys come up with this stuff? Fourth Prodigy, YouTube Legend 7th level. Smiley, smiley, smiley. Okay. Do you think Amazing Spider-Man 3 is a good possibility, and what do you want from it? I don't know. We'll see. I mean, there's been talks. The only thing I would want from it would be for it to be good, because I didn't like the first two. I mean, you know, Garfield was all right as Spider-Man. I didn't think he made a good Peter Parker, but he made a fine Spider-Man. But that was the only thing in those worth watching. The rest of it was kind of trash. Let's see. Thoughts on Foghorn Leghorn? Well, I don't really think about him that much. I watched the cartoons when I was a kid. He's not one of my more favorite characters. Fourth Prodigy. I've watched all your videos on your new channel. You make great content. Looking forward possibly doing something with you in the future. Oh, really? Okay, then. That's cool. I appreciate you watching the new channel. God knows there aren't a lot of people who are. I've only had a couple of videos on there that have even broke 300 views. Several of the new videos that I've posted haven't even broke 100. So the people that are subscribed to it aren't consistently watching it. I don't really know what to do about that. I don't know if that's a YouTube thing, and the algorithm is still screwing me even on a new channel, or if my content's just not as good as I think it is. It's got to be one of the two. No, I'm not going to go to the theater to see Jackass. I don't go to theaters that much these days. Not willing to take the risk. When things get a little bit better with this virus and my health is a little bit better, then I'll risk it. You didn't have to read the message. I just wanted you to know your work is valued. Well, that's what this. I'm assuming that you're new to my live stream, Fourth Prodigy. That's kind of how I do things. I'll cover a couple of topics in the first 15 to 30 minutes, and then the rest of it is pure on Q&A and me just interacting with the group. And that includes, reading the questions, reading the comments, as long as they're not stupid or trollish. So that's what this stream is about. It's about interaction. I'm a smaller channel, so I try to provide a level of interaction that you're not going to get from the bigger guys. It's just the way it is. In the end, we're all talking more or less about the same topics. So the only thing that I can do that's any different is be more available as an online personality than some of the other online personalities you're likely to watch. Do you know what the Truth Setting You Free is doing these days? I have no idea. I do know that he still has an active PlayStation Network account because he's on my friends list and I see him playing. But I don't know what he's doing. Wannabe Gamer, your comment was hidden because it's about the coof. But I can tell you, at least as far as the fact that the coof exists and that people can die from it, that is absolutely not a hoax. I have had 2 coworkers just in the last 8 or 9 calendar days die from it. So these were friends of mine that I'd known for years. So let's be a little bit less trollish when it comes to that topic. How about that? Yeah, Warner Brothers is digging a grave for the DC stuff. I mean, the Batman looks like it could be good, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. But yeah, it's not looking too good for the Snyderverse, because I'm told that that the Flashpoint movie basically retcons it. We'll see. It's definitely a YouTube thing. I noticed all my favorite content creators are barely hitting. They used to hit 10,000, now they're barely getting 1,000 views because of the new algorithm. Yeah, it is what it is. Nowadays, the only people that get good views are the folks that have been getting it for years. Otherwise, it's all word of mouth. And whereas I have a pretty loyal repeat audience, I don't have an audience that that advertises me or broadcasts me on other social media. So, I don't really have that kind of word of mouth effect. Not saying that as a negative to the people that have been watching me. It just is what I'm just stating a fact. It is what it is. I can look at my numbers and see where my numbers come from, and little to none of them come from links from other sites. So, whereas some people have a rabid fan base that copy pasta their video links everywhere that they go, I don't have that fan base. What was the golden era of online console gaming in your opinion? None, because I don't like online gaming. I've been watching you since 2014. I just didn't comment like that back in the day. It's no sweat. It's no sweat. I know that some of my fan base are lurkers. I get it. Well, believe me when I tell you, wannabe, I know multiple people that have died from it. And let's just leave it at that. Been watching you since the Trey Brotherhood, going back to the El Presidor days. Oh, cool. Yeah, those were some fun times. Fun times. What retro games have you been playing recently? Not that much lately. I've been playing some retro style games, but not actual retro games. Unless you consider like 360 and PS3 era stuff retro, because I've been playing some of the 360 games that were added to the backwards compatibility list. I don't own it because it's a digital only game. But there is an Xbox 360 game I recently discovered that is a clone of God of War, classic God of War, not current God of War. And let me find the name of it. It's called Marlowe Briggs and the Mask of Death. Marlowe Briggs and the Mask of Death. And it's a God of War clone that has a 70s blaxploitation vibe to it. If you've never heard of it, it's got to be seen to be believed. There's entire playthroughs of it on YouTube. You got to go give it a watch. I thought about doing a redneck retro review of it, but I just can't bring myself to spend $15 on it right now. I don't have the money. Let's see. Wannabe Gamer, how could you watch my channel as long as you have and not know who 8th is? Lord 8th is 8th. That's my 19-year-old son, Wannabe. What's the matter with you? Rumor early development of Joker 2 script. I don't care about Joker 2. He-Man versus Hercules. Who would win? He-Man. Hercules doesn't have the power sword. I know, Justin. I know. I saw your comment about Stand By Me before, Shadowhood. I just didn't have anything to add to it. To me, any system that reaches 20 years old is retro, which means the Wii U is halfway there. I was tempted with Marlo Briggs. I went online looking for a used copy, only to find out that you could only buy it online from the Xbox store. It's not they never made a physical release of it, and it's still $15 on the Xbox store. This 360 God of War clone that no one's heard of is $15 on the store, and I just can't bring myself to pay $15 for it. I mean, I'd play it if I had it. I'd play it if you guys wanted to see me play it and see me review it, but I'm not spending $15 on it right now. I get you, Fourth. I get you. Man, a lot of numbers in this chat. 7th, 8th, 4th. What sort of setting is Marlo Briggs in? It looks like it takes place in South America, because there's some kind of a Mayan or Aztec connection to it, like Mayan or Aztec temples or some crap. I didn't watch enough of it to get the story and everything. When 8th turns 21, will you and him do a drunken stream? No, I won't, because as I said earlier, I have fatty liver disease, and alcohol ain't good for you. Fourth, I'm lucky if I even get people to click the like button for me, much less interact. Because I'll get 300 or 400 views on a video in its first, brief period, 17 likes. Even when I come on here and tell people, if you want to support your favorite content creators, click the like button, leave a comment, watch the whole video, not just a few minutes of it. Those are the 3 things you can do to make that content creator more successful. I can scream that till I'm blue in the face. There are some folks that watch me who simply won't do any of those things. I haven't played it on Steam, Slick. I don't do a whole lot of Steam playing much at all. I've been wanting to play Rygar on the NES, but I haven't found a copy near me. You know what's pretty good is the PS2 reboot of Rygar, which was later released on the Wii with slightly different graphics and waggle controls. But the PS2 version is pretty good. Feels kind of similar to God of War, but I think it actually might have come out a little bit before the first God of War, if I remember right. I could be misremembering that. But Rygar on NES was one of the first NES games I ever beat. The first game I ever beat that I bought with my own money was Bionic Commando, but the first game that I ever beat, period, on the NES would have been either Super Mario Brothers or Rygar, because I borrowed it from my cousin. He left his NES at my house when he got one to let me play it for a week to see how I liked it. And Rygar was one of the games that he had. Do you like the movie 2012? It's okay. But I mean, Roland Emmerich has been... he's had a few movies that don't fit this mold, but the movies he's most known for are all disaster films. So it gets to the point where you feel like you've seen one Roland Emmerich film, you've seen them all. I mean, look at this movie that's about to hit the theaters, Moonfall. That's a Roland Emmerich film, and it looks just like the last 5 or 6 movies he's made. You said you have fatty liver disease. That's what killed the angry grandpa. Well, it killed him because no, he had cancer too. He didn't just have fatty liver; he had cancer. Fatty liver is treatable and reversible if you live right. Take your medication, eat what you're supposed to be eating, that kind of thing. Angry grandpa didn't do any of that. Yeah, I don't know that anything will ever sell the PS2. I don't really know. It just hit at the perfect time. It hit right at the DVD craze, and it was way cheaper than standalone DVD players at the time. At the time that the PlayStation came out, a decent DVD player was still going for like $500. So paying $299 was and getting a full game console, that was quite a deal. He beat his cancer, but just because you beat the cancer itself doesn't mean that you beat the effects the cancer had on your body. And his body was greatly weakened from beating cancer, including his immune system. And so when you tack all that on top of fatty liver disease, then yeah, it can take you out. And, right, he drank a lot of alcohol. And when you have fatty liver, drinking alcohol on top of it quickly turns fatty liver into cirrhosis of the liver, and that you can, in fact, die from. I don't drink alcohol. I've recently started retro gaming again. What a difference when developers actually cared about well, there were some crappy games in retro too. I could point some fingers. Was the PS2 your first DVD player? No, I had in 1997 I bought a Magnavox single disc DVD player for $500. Have you ever played Mega Man Legends? Yes. Yep, in Bionic Commando, Der Fuhrer is the final boss. Sort of. You actually have to fight against this giant airship, and when the airship blows up, it kills him, and you see his face explode. Oh, by the way, almost forgot. 2 hours remaining. We have had $3 donated. I know that says $2.35. That's because of the exchange rate, but I count it as $3. We've had $3 donated. We are $47 away from extending the stream by another hour. For the new folks with us, like fourth, this is a 3-hour podcast. It runs from 6 to 9. That can be extended by donations. If we hit $50, I stay till 10. If we hit 75, I stay till 11. If we hit 100 or more, I stay till midnight for a 6-hour stream. That has not happened since last May. I've never drank Jim Beam on stream. I used to once a week drink a hard cola. It was Jack Daniel's Blackjack Cola, and I stopped buying them. I don't drink them anymore. I drink tea. This is tea that I'm drinking. Well, new technology is always expensive when it first comes out, J Chip. I can remember when VCRs were just ridiculously expensive, like 800 plus bucks, depending on the model you bought. What was Eight's favorite toy back in the day? I loved Lego Bionicles as a kid. He liked Bionicles too. He was really big into Transformers for a while. He had an entire bin packed to the top with Transformers. But the weird thing with 8 was he didn't really play with them. He had transformed them once, and then he would kind of take them all out and arrange them so he could sit back and look at them. And then he might transform them back into their vehicle form, but he never had like wars with them. Like he'd never have Megatron and Optimus fighting each other or whatnot. He never played with them that way. He didn't have imaginary battles. He would just transform them like they were a puzzle, like they were a Rubik's Cube. But he loved to have them. He loved to have them. Every time he'd get sick, I'd stop by Walmart on my way home from work, and I'd buy him some Transformer that I knew he didn't have, and I'd come home and give it to him, and that'd always cheer him up. That was my go-to thing to get him whenever he got sick, because Eighth used to get sick a lot when he was a kid. He was a sickly kid. Not anymore, but used to. He'd get sick a lot. He'd get ear infections and sinus infections and stomach bugs and all sorts of stuff. I hate it when DVD extras are on the same disc as the movie. Movie picture quality sucked because of it. It's not as much of an issue with Blu-ray, but I know what you mean. 7th Peacemaker getting interesting. Peacemaker's been good, yeah. I like Peacemaker. Peacemaker is fun. I'm really impressed by the new technology, or the improving technology they're having with Book of Boba Fett, and in regards to Mark Hamill's face. Just watching the season finale of season 2 of The Mandalorian and watching episode 6 of the Book of Boba Fett, the improvement in the tech in Luke Skywalker's face is mind-blowing. You can still tell it's fake if you watch his mouth, but it's still really impressive. That's why when you watch that episode of the Book of Boba Fett, early on, a lot of Luke's speaking lines, it'll show his face and show him reacting with his face to something. Then the camera will look away from his face and you'll hear him speak. And it's like they wanted to limit how many scenes they did where he was actually speaking with his face on camera, but it was still cool. Was the PS3 the cheapest Blu-ray player in 2006? Yes, it was. Favorite dessert that you can't go without? None, because I'm a type 2. I still cheat every now and again, even though I shouldn't, but for the most part, I don't partake in sweets nearly as much as I used to. Yeah, I liked the newest episode of the Book of Boba Fett. I had a lot of fun with it. I think it's funny that Boba Fett as a character is 4 episodes after 4 episodes, he completely took a back seat to the Mandalorian. And all these episodes were written well in advance of filming them, and yet it feels like, that they said, "Oh, well, we're 4 episodes in, people aren't feeling Boba Fett, let's bring Mandalorian and Luke Skywalker back." I don't know. It feels like the first 4 episodes were made by different people. Like Filoni and Jon Favreau weren't involved in the first 4, and they were only involved in in episodes 5, 6, and 6, and whatever's left. It's weird. What do you think about the current state of Xbox? Not much, because what they've put out so far that's exclusive are franchises that I'm not huge fans of. I mean, I like Forza Horizon 5, but I don't like it as much as Burnout Paradise. And Halo I haven't liked since Halo 2, so... Are you writing a book? No, I'm not writing a book. What made you think that? They bought Bungie for the talent. $1.2 billion will be spent in talent retention. Yeah, $1.2 billion to keep them from leaving to go to another company after being bought out. Did you see Cad Bane? Yes. I still have not seen The Mandalorian. I like The Mandalorian. I think it's a good show. What are the symptoms you get from fatty liver? Well, you fart a lot more than you would otherwise, which also causes you to often have trapped gas pain. So you feel like you've got a fist trying to force its way out of your stomach. And then on your right side will sometimes swell up a little bit and will feel swollen, like you've been punched there real hard. And occasionally you'll have an attack that almost would be similar to a gallbladder attack, where you've got this pain right across your midsection that just doesn't want to go away, and it can be there anywhere from an hour to a day and a half without stopping. And it's just tremendously painful. It completely incapacitates me, where I don't want to do anything but lay there and wait for it to go away. I've tried to give the Clone Wars show a chance, Shadowhood. I just never could get into it. I watched a couple of episodes of it, and I watched that Clone Wars movie about the baby Hutts or whatever, and I just wasn't feeling it. Wasn't feeling it at all, son. It's just not my thing. It's not my thing. Will you be watching Uncharted? No, I'll watch it when it hits home on demand. I ain't going to the theater to watch it. Too many people around me dying to risk it. And that's coming from somebody that's triple vaxxed. I've had all 3 shots. I'm still not willing to go sit in a theater. You know, when I went to see Spider-Man, the whole Omicron thing hadn't hit yet. But now, you know, it's out there, and I have people I know dropping dead left and right, and I'm just not going to risk it. Enemy TV, hello. How's it going, sir? Is fatty liver the result of a bad lifestyle or bad genetics? Probably a little bit of both. My liver was fine up until I spent 3 years working third shift, and it was during that period that my weight ballooned by over 100 pounds. So something happened to me when I started working third shift that caused me to gain weight, caused me to get fatty liver, and caused me to become type 2. From Lil V 1008. I'm just going to call you Lil. What's up, 7th? How long you been live? About an hour and 20 minutes. About an hour and 20 minutes. We got about an hour and 40 minutes to go. Do you like Tomb Raider better than Uncharted? Modern Tomb Raider and either one, not really. Although I didn't care for Uncharted 4 all that much. You ever check out the Army of Two games? I played the first one. I didn't play the second one. I didn't really like the first one that much, so I never bothered with the second one. Another interesting thing about the Avengers is that Tony Stark is played by Nolan North, the voice of Nathan Drake from the Uncharted series. But he doesn't look like Tony Stark from the movies. He doesn't look like Downey. And so it's just like Nathan Drake with a goatee walking around in Iron Man armor. It's weird. Next year is going to be another Willy Wonka movie. Why? Rejoice, 7th. They have Keto Pizza now. The dough is made of cauliflower. Not bad. Have you tried it? No, I haven't tried it. Again, I haven't gotten that big into the new Tomb Raider games because I started playing the first one and saw how much of it, at least in the early part of the game, was archery. And I'm just not that big on archery in video games. That's why I never got super big into the Horizon games, because of the bow and arrow. I'd rather just have a gun. I know you get guns later on in Tomb Raider, but because of that, I was running around. Oh, I got to kill him with this. Put a couple hours in it. And, I don't want to keep doing this, and I turned it off. Shadowhood. Yes, it can burn if there's some. It's expelling some stomach acid in addition to the gas. How come you didn't like The Lost Legacy? Because it wasn't Drake and Sully. I don't care about Chloe and Nadine. Did you like Toby in No Way Home? Yeah, his suit seemed a little off in some scenes. I didn't notice. It's a Willy Wonka origin story, and it stars the guy who played Paul in Dune. Oh. Why does everything have to have an origin story now? I mean, they even did sort of an origin story flashback scene in the Tim Burton one. I don't get it. I just don't get it. Why? What's the point? What is the point? That's certainly not anything that I care about seeing. I mean, I want to see the Uncharted movie. I just don't want to go to the theater. Yeah, I want to see the Jackass movie. I just don't want to go to the theater. There's a lot of stuff that's coming out. I just don't want to go to the theater to see it. Especially when I spent the last year getting to see these movies and not having to go to the theater to see them. Because now I'm used to it. Now I'm used to not having to go to a theater no more. 7th, did you talk about Bungie? Yeah, I did. The basic gist of it is I don't care. Because I don't care about Destiny. And I don't care about games as a service games, which is the only reason Sony bought them. The Candyman. I haven't seen the new Candyman. I mean, it's available on demand, but I don't want to buy it and then not like it, so I'm just going to wait for it to hit HBO Max or Amazon Prime where I don't have to pay for it, and then I'll watch it. Are you a fan of prequels in general? Not that much. The Cancer Man donated $3. All right, so I owe Juggernauts and the Cancer Man a $1 bill. Here you go. $1 bill, y'all. $1 bill. All right. Thank you. That puts us up to $5. As far as prequels goes, the only, like the Star Wars prequels, the only one that I liked was Revenge of the Sith. Yeah, I didn't like the other two. Why did that? Okay. Hey, 7th, do you ever play VR at all? And if you do, what's your current favorite game? No, I don't play VR. We have VR. We have Oculus Rift. We have PSVR. I never play it because both of those are in 8's room. Eventually, when the PSVR 2 comes out, the PSVR 2 will go in 8's room, and I will get the old PSVR, and then I'll be able to play the old-ass PSVR games. In total, I think I might have spent at most an hour playing PSVR, because when we got it, I tried it out for an hour, and then it went in 8's room, and I never saw it again. Bad Grandpa versus Angry Grandpa. I don't know. I don't know. I think I like Angry Grandpa better, to be honest with you. My theater is playing the 25th anniversary of The Fifth Element. I can't wait to see it. I saw it at the theater when it came out. I don't need to see it at the theater again. But I understand. Did the film Dead Silence scare you? No. I thought it had some cool scenes, but for the most part, it's a dumb movie. You know, it was some cool horror scenes wrapped around a dumb plot, so I spent more time laughing at it than I did getting engrossed in it. I still ain't seen the new Spider-Man movie. The last time I went was the last Avengers movie, and those people were cheering every time the superhero showed up. It was disappointing. Well, I've been to a lot of movies where fans cheered. I don't really have a problem with that. It doesn't bother me. Except for the fact that the coof is going on right now, and that's a bunch of people expelling potentially infected air towards me. And that's why I prefer not to be going to theaters right now. And I agree with 8th. Yeah, it's okay for a movie to have a message. Just because a movie has a message doesn't make it woke. I look at the original Star Wars. You had an interracial cast. You had your first interracial kiss. You had episodes that were about current social topics, but I wouldn't call it woke because it didn't beat you over the head with it. I think there's a difference. Cancer Man donated another $1. Do you smell like mayo? No, I don't smell like mayo. I smell like your mom's. I'm kidding. So now we're up to $6. Thank you, Cancer Man, for the additional $1. I'm more and more understanding why Sean Layden liked all those comments about Sony's legacy titles. I'm 10 minutes in, so sorry about that. No worries. What was so dumb about it? It was a horror movie about the ghost of a ventriloquist. That in itself is dumb. One of the big twists is that one of the major characters of the film is not actually alive and is the corpse of someone who's been hollowed out and turned into a giant ventriloquist dummy. It's a stupid movie. It's a good movie, but it's a stupid movie. Just like James Wan's newest film, Malignant. It's a good movie, but it's a stupid movie. Sometimes a stupid movie can be a good thing. Those are two examples of it, both of them made by James Wan. Yeah, exactly. I'm not right now. I'm not interested in seeing another Superman movie unless Henry Cavill is playing Superman. I think he got screwed, and he deserves to keep the role. Yes, I'm sure X-Men will be rebooted in some fashion. I mean, there's been some rumors that they're just going to use the multiverse to import the existing X-Men movies over into the MCU. Myself, I feel that's a bad idea. I think they should just be rebooted entirely. Yeah, I'm with 8th. Dead Silence is a god-awful, stupid-ass movie, but it's one of my favorite movies because of how dumb it is. You know, I like dumb horror movies. And to me, that's what Malignant and Dead Silence are. Dumb, funny horror movies. Thoughts on Scream 6? I don't care about Scream 6. I don't think it ever should have been sequelized because the jumping through hoops that the plot has to do to justify why there's another person running around killing people wearing the suit in the same town, and it just keeps happening. It's just dumb. I thought the first one was a funny satire of the slasher genre. I didn't feel it needed to be sequelized. Did you see the new 007? No, I haven't. When I don't have to pay for it, I'll watch it. Exactly. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 is a stupid movie, but it's a fun one. And it also directly inspired House of a Thousand Corpses. What's your favorite version of live-action Spider-Man? Probably Maguire. Where does Ben Affleck rank on your list of live-action Batman actors? 3. Brandon Routh should have played Superman again. He did. On the WB shows. Or the CW shows, I should say. He reprised his role in the CW TV shows when they were doing their multiverse thing. And he got pulled into the Supergirl universe and was fighting with the other Superman. Deadpool's Juggernaut design gives me high hopes for future X-Men movies. We'll see. We'll see. Keaton was the best Batman ever. Keaton was a surprisingly good Batman. There were some parts of it, I like him as well as I like Christian Bale, but for different reasons. They're just two totally different interpretations of the character, and I like them both. Just like Bruce Wayne is played by Affleck, Batfleck, totally different interpretation of the character. I just don't think he got enough screen time for us to really see what he could do with it. Yeah, he was a supporting character instead of the star of the show. I've seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre Next Generation. The only thing that's good about it is how over-the-top Matthew McConaughey's performance is. 7th, which company do you think Sony might acquire next? I don't know if it's going to be next, but I feel at some point they're going to purchase a company that makes 2D fighting games, because I just simply don't believe that Sony would buy Evo, an esports company, and have no fighting games in their exclusive roster. It doesn't make any sense. So I feel at some point down the line they are going to buy a studio who makes 2D and possibly 3D fighting games. I just don't know who that would be. They tried making them in-house with All-Star Battle Royal, and Battle Royal was all right for what it was, but it didn't exactly set the world on fire. Michael Keaton and Val Kilmer versus George Clooney. Kilmer was all right as Batman. He was just working with a bad script. George Clooney was terrible as Batman because he just didn't really have any personality as either character. And when he played Batman, he was just playing Bruce Wayne in a suit. He didn't change his voice or the way he acted when he was in the suit. He was the same guy whether he was out of the suit or in it, which to me means that he didn't really understand the character. 7th, is it me or did Keanu Reeves slowly start becoming a more convincing actor? Yes. He's a much better actor than he was in the 90s when I first noticed him. Yeah, Arc Systems would be a good company for them to buy, but again, it's not exactly the easiest thing in the world to buy Japanese companies in Japan or by an overseas conglomerate. Japanese law, a lot different than U.S. law. But that would be a good one. A young Gerard Butler could have been an interesting... Yes, he would have. That would have been interesting. Very much so. Hey, Seventh, do you like the show Pawn Stars? No. The, the only show that's like any of that kind of stuff that I watch is the Game Chasers. I don't watch American Pickers or Pawn Stars or any of that stuff. I watch the Game Chasers, and that's pretty much it. Are the Bill and Ted movies any good? Yeah. The first two, the second one is the weirdest one of the bunch, in my opinion. The second one is weird. There's some weird shit goes on in part two. The third one was more about their kids than about them. So I mean, I liked it, but it wasn't as fun because Keanu Reeves, basically played his part as an over the hill old man, as opposed to, the 50-year-old version of the Ted character, if that makes any sense to you. It didn't feel like Ted. And it kind of took me out of it a little bit. Is Peacemaker going to be on a special watch this shit on your new channel? Plug. You guys want me to start covering movies and shows too? Because I can do that. I just remembered where Chris Judge said that video games and superhero movies are where actors go to die before he got the role of Kratos. I'd never heard that quote. That's interesting, though. Wonder if anyone's ever brought that quote up to him since he was in God of War. Pawn Stars is slightly corrupt after what Carl exposed. I don't know anything about that. Like I said, I've never watched the show. Do you think Ted Bundy would have gotten if your English is a little bad on that quote? Do you think had Ted Bundy gotten away with it, he would have gotten caught again or killed? Eventually, he would have been caught. They always eventually get caught. Even the Green River Killer eventually got caught. It's just a matter of time. The only one that, there's been very few that haven't eventually got caught, like Jack the Ripper, the Zodiac. This is what it is. Eventually they screw up because people stop paying them attention, so they intentionally start leaving clues because they want that attention, and then they get caught. Did you prefer Robin Williams as a comedy actor, or did you prefer his most serious roles? I liked them both depending on what it was. There were some of his serious roles that I didn't particularly care for. But then movies like Dead Poet Society I thought was great. I was kind of hit or miss with Robin Williams, at least as far as his drama stuff goes. His comedy stuff usually was always good. There was a couple towards the end there that weren't that great, like Old Dogs. I think it was Old Dogs. That one wasn't all that great, but for the most part, his comedies were pretty spot on. Covering movies and shows would be a good way to get into the algorithm, would be a good idea. We'll see. One thing that I asked on Twitter recently is if anybody would be interested in me reviving the 7th Update weekly news show, where I kind of do a weekend update / talk soup type coverage of the week's most current gaming events. It would be cool to see Don't Watch This on your channel. Okay. I just don't know that I'd be able to actually show footage of what I'm talking about because of, copyright. I'd have to show like still shots of it or something instead. John Cena acting, getting better and better. Love his role as Peacemaker. It's good. Chris G, what's up? Forgot it was Saturday. Same old, man. Review Lost. I never watched Lost. Bundy helped catch the Green River Killer. That's why he was caught. Well, there were several that were assisted. They go to serial killers that have already been caught and see what they think. That's been going on for years. I mean, that's what that show on Netflix, Mindhunters, is about. Hey, Seven, imagine you were the director of a God of War movie and Gerard Butler and The Rock both wanted to do the role. What would you do? I'd give it to The Rock. Butler too old at this point. You know, I know The Rock's getting up in age too, but he's not showing it as bad as Butler is nowadays. What's your favorite Tom Hanks movie? Oh, Lord. It would have to be one of three movies. The Burbs, Forrest Gump, or Catch Me If You Can. I don't care for his Da Vinci Code crap at all. I skipped all of those. I tried to watch Da Vinci Code. I got 20 minutes into it, and I was bored to tears, and I turned it off. I love the 7th update. You know, I hear that a lot. People tell me, oh, I love that show. Why'd you quit doing it? Because nobody was watching it. I never had a single episode of the 7th update that got above 1,000 views. Not one. Not one. People just didn't show up for it. But if enough people say they want to see me do it, I'll bring it back. Well, I mean, Jim Carrey's still making the Sonic movies. The Sonic the Hedgehog movies short round. So technically he's still acting, sort of. Do you like WWE or AEW? I don't watch wrestling anymore, Liv. No more Lil. No more wrestling. How far do you think Ed Gein would have gone if he was not caught committing his crimes? Who knows? Who knows? The mall was open, but nobody was shopping. Favorite movie starring The Rock? Starring The Rock. I'm having a hard time thinking of one. Probably Rampage. I really liked Rampage. I thought it was a lot better than people gave it credit for. I mean, true, it takes a lot of liberties with the video game. But for what it was, I had fun with it. Eighth really liked it too. I'm not as big a fan of his Jumanji movies. And he was not the star of the Mummy 2. And The Scorpion King felt like a made-for-TV movie. So, what were your thoughts on the Game Chasers movie? Well, Enemy, I haven't actually seen it yet. I didn't get to go to the premiere because of the coof. I had to stay home. So I didn't get to see my big ugly face on the big screen. I'm having to wait for the digital copies to go out, and then I'll get the Blu-ray in the summer. I never was given the full script, so I don't even know what happens in this movie. The only parts of it that I know are the, maybe minute and a half that I'm in it. Why was Bungie executed but not the Green River Killer? Probably because wherever the Green River Killer is incarcerated, they don't have the death penalty. Who was worse, Ed Kemper or Jeffrey Dahmer? Ooh. I don't know, because I don't know what their individual victim counts are. That being said, I don't think Ed Kemper ate any of his victims, unlike Dahmer. Dahmer's just weird, man. Even other serial killers, there's like, oh, Dahmer. Oh, ugh. I mean, there's not really that many guys, known guys, in Hollywood right now that have that Kratos look. There really aren't. There aren't that many. So, as far as getting a named actor to play that role, it's kind of slim pickings. Are you scared to fly? I've been in a plane. I've never flown. I just don't trust it. especially not with the coof going around. I don't want to be locked into an air pressured tube, potentially with people carrying that crap. Do you have any suspects on what video game movie The Rock is going to be in? That's the big question, isn't it? He said he was going to be in a big, well-known, kick-ass video game movie. Well, he already did Doom. I'm wondering if it's like a Grand Theft Auto movie. I mean, a lot of people are saying God of War, and I know he showed interest in being Kratos at one point. But I'm wondering if it's Grand Theft Auto, and that's going to be like his middle finger to the Fast and the Furious franchise, because there's a lot of drama going on between him and the more classic actors of the Fast and Furious series. Like him and Vin Diesel aren't getting along. So I'm wondering if maybe he somehow wrangled a Grand Theft Auto movie, and that's going to be like his FU to the Fast and the Furious series. Gacy had tons of bodies under his house. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. That's why he's one of the reasons why a lot of people don't like clowns. A Gears of War film. I don't like The Rock for Gears of War. I think Batista would be better because he looks like Phoenix. He looks like Phoenix. He'd be a natural pick to play Phoenix in a Gears of War movie. The Rock, not as much. Do you think Dave Batista would be... That's what I was saying. That's what I was saying, y'all. That's what I was saying. I just noticed I can't even say, hit the gray button with the $sign on it anymore because it's not gray anymore. It's see-through. They took the gray out. I can't even say that no more. Of course, it's better if you use the link up here anyway because that goes straight to me and YouTube doesn't keep 30% of it. Just is what it is, man. Just is what it is. I mean, I promise you, if we made it to $60 tonight, which it obviously doesn't look like we're going to, but if we made it to $60 tonight, I would use the money to buy me my own copy of Dying Light 2, and I would start playing it when it showed up on Tuesday. But we ain't going to make it to $60. I can already tell. The Rock versus Vin Diesel at WrestleMania. You want to... No, I don't. Because in real life, I'm not convinced that Vin Diesel could fight worth a shit. I'm just not convinced. Ed Kemper was a tall man. 7th, does Jim Ryan need to be fired? I don't know. I ain't going to get into all that. I even saw a rumor on Twitter today from someone claiming that Phil Spencer is trying to position himself to leave Microsoft. I don't know where he would possibly want to go. I mean, it seems like he actually has fun doing what he does. So I don't know why he would want to leave. I can't imagine that that Microsoft aren't paying him enough. Are there any old game reviews you look back on and think, I could do better now? Oh, yeah, a lot of them. Because I had a much worse camera. I had a much worse method for capturing game footage. A lot of my old reviews look like crap. That's why I haven't brought those reviews over to the new channel. I've only been bringing over the more newer stuff. And I'm also not bringing over the reviews that have skits in them, like Street Fighter 5 and The Division and what have you, because I don't want to set up the expectation that that's what people will see, because I don't want to do the skits anymore. I'm not... I've gained too much weight to be camera friendly for skits these days. So, I prefer to just do them, donkey or skill up style and not show my face. Leave my face for the 7thCast. I have no idea who would replace Phil Spencer if he left. I can't think of anybody that's currently in Microsoft who would do a good job. Which is what further makes me doubt the story. But, you never can tell these days. Somebody dangles enough millions in front of his face, who knows? Yeah, da 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 da. Do 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 do. But yeah, checked in with my doctor. They put me on these liver pills. I'm going to start Tuesday. I don't know, man. Especially nowadays, the doctor's office is really the last place in the world I want to be. I've never really liked doctors. The doctor I have now, she's fine. She's a very nice lady. But I just never have liked going to doctor's offices. I think I get that from my dad a little bit. He never liked going to the doctor's office either. And, of course, ultimately that's what killed him. But I just don't like going to doctor's offices at all. Like I can remember in my mid-30s, I decided I should go to the doctor because, I was not quite lasting as long as I should, if you get what I'm saying. So I decided I need to go to the doctor and find out if there's something going on with me, or if it's just a mental thing. Maybe it's just a mental thing. So I went walking into the doctor's office, and I whipped it out, showed it to her, and I said, "Doctor, I don't know. I think I'm premature." And she said, "Yes, you are. I'm the receptionist." I had to. I'm sorry. I had to. No, I don't watch anything with Gordon Ramsay. How long do you think E3 will last? I don't know. I probably won't watch it unless you guys want me to live stream it. The last time I live streamed it, I got copyright struck. So I don't think I'm going to bother this year. Your Fallout 76 review is pretty funny. That is not a good game. You're right, it's not. Yeah, I know Ed Kemper's still alive. I find doctors strangely relaxing. Same with dentists. Ugh. What's your new channel called? DBTS. DBTS. You want a link to it? Hang on a second. I'll give you a link. I'll give you a link. Hold on. Hold on, mulatto. Come on, meow. All right. Okay, here you go. Here's a link to the new channel. It's not a month old yet, so it's you have to wait till it's a month old before you can get a custom URL like, youtube.com/DBTS. So I have to wait another few days. What games are you playing right now? Well, today I played the Avengers to get my footage for the review that I'll be doing tomorrow. That's the most recent thing that I played. Stuff like that with the doctor happens to me all the time, though. Not like, whipping it out and showing it to somebody, but just misunderstandings like that happens to me all the time. Like this past Christmas, I went out and decided instead of using our plastic tree that we use every year, that I was going to go out and get a real tree. So I went to all the little Christmas tree lots until I found just the right one, and I brought it home. I came walking in the front door with it, and Eighth was sitting there, and I said, "Look, Eighth, I got us our new tree." And Eighth doesn't like to decorate the tree anymore. He's outgrown that, so he thinks he's too old and too mature to decorate the tree. So he looked at me and he said, "You gonna put that up yourself?" And I said, "No, that would really hurt. I'm gonna put it in the living room." Which Evil Within game was better, 1 or 2? I didn't really care for either one of them because I don't do the whole survival horror thing anymore. Never really got into it that much. Which is worse, Fallout 76 or Life of Black Tiger? Life of Black Tiger. At least with Fallout 76, you can drag a friend in to share in your misery and get a few laughs out of it. Review Breaking Bad. I don't know what'd be the point of reviewing Breaking Bad. I've never met anyone who didn't like it. Are you excited for the new Guardians of the Galaxy game coming out this year? The Guardians of the Galaxy game already came out. I have it in my living room. What are you talking about? Thoughts on NFTs and games? I think it's a bad idea. Do you think puppies are cute? I think dogs in general are fun, if that counts for it. Were rectangle pizzas a staple in your school system growing up? Oh, you mean the rectangle sheets of dough with cheese on them? Yeah. We'd roll them up and dip them in stuff and eat them. Like some people dipped them in ranch dressing. Some people dipped them in mustard. Ever watch Pay It Forward? Yeah, I hated that movie. Hated that movie. I already told this story on Twitter, but I'll tell you another unfortunate misunderstanding story. One of the you've heard me talk numerous times about how I'm sick of zombies in movies and video games. And one of the reasons that I'm sick and tired of zombies in movies and video games and TV shows and all that is because a few years ago I had kind of a bad experience with zombies, and it's kind of tainted my my opinion on the whole genre. It was just a bad experience overall. And it just didn't... I have bad memories of it. I mean, I'd shot about 12 or 13 of them before I stopped to ask myself why all these zombies carrying bags of candy kept ringing my doorbell, but it is what it is. Alright. Yeah, I remember Bigfoot Pizza because I was working at Pizza Hut when they debuted that thing. They were a pain in the butt to make. If you've seen Death Note, it would be interesting to see a review about that, especially hear thoughts about the ending. I liked the anime. The Netflix movie was god awful. Thoughts on Matrix 4? It was terrible. Why did you hate Pay It Forward? Because it just felt like schmaltz, and I don't like schmaltzy movies. Samurai Cop or The Room? I like both of those about on the same level, to be honest with you. I was surprised that you thought Final Fantasy 15's OST wasn't that strong since Yoko Shimomura worked on it and everyone hypes her up. You know, I can still hum themes from like, you know, Final Fantasy 6, Final Fantasy 7. If you asked me to hum any part of Final Fantasy 15, I couldn't do it. Of course, you know, I'm not going to hum anything over the 7thCast because a guy in his 40s humming over the internet is pretty stupid. Are you looking forward to Aquaman 2? I don't know, man. I don't know. I have my reservations on it because of Amber Heard still being in it. You ever watch The Client? I was at that movie with Tommy Lee Jones, and it's one of those courtroom drama things. Yeah, I've seen it. I think that's the one with the kid. I think that child actor ended up killing himself a few years after that movie was made. Let's see here. Review Mr. Nanny starring Hulk Hogan. I've seen Mr. Nanny and I've seen The Tooth Fairy, and they both suck. They both suck. Those are bad, bad films. Uh-oh. I just noticed. Batteries went dead. 1 hour remaining. We've got 1 hour remaining. We are still basically $44 short of the 10 o'clock extension. So, once again, folks, doesn't look like you're getting anything more than 3 hours out of me tonight. Why is that not going off? Oh, there it goes. There it goes. That's depressing. Did you like the PS Vita? Yes, I liked the PS Vita very much because at the time I could use it. I had a reason to use it a lot because I was a couple of years after it came out, I was working third shift at my job, and so I'd play PS Vita all night, stay awake. But now I don't work third shift anymore, and I don't go anywhere anymore. I work from home. I got no reason to play portable. That's why I don't need a Steam Deck. Why would I ever have a Steam Deck? I have no reason to own one. Other than to be able to sit in my chair and play Steam games in my recliner without having to move my PC into the game room. I have absolutely no reason to ever own a Steam Deck. Did the infamous S start in your generation, or does it go back even further? My earliest memory of the S is from middle school, which would have been like 1987, 1988, somewhere around in there. That's my earliest memory of seeing it. Do you think Helen Hunt is pretty? I think in a certain way she was back in the 90s. But, you know, I've never been all that big on blondes anyway. Darkstar, do you mean Pong clone, not Palm clone? Because the first thing I played on my Radio Shack Pong clone was Pong, because that's all it did. It played 6 different versions of Pong. 1-on-1, 2-on-2, even though it was still just 2-player. You had 2 paddles instead of two paddles each instead of one. There was a soccer version of Pong on there. It was just 6 different versions of Pong. The Sly Cooper collection on PS Vita is a really good port. I don't have that. I think I had it at one point and I sold it. What is the infamous S, or is that something you can't say on YouTube? It's just a popular drawing that kids used to draw on their notebooks. It was like almost like a little graffiti symbol, and it's just like an S in the shape of a diamond. And it just started magically showing up, and every kid in the school knew how to draw it, and they'd draw it all over their books and all over their notebooks. And kids have been doing that for entire generations. Yeah, Pong, P-O-N-G, Pong, Pong clone. Palm. Yeah, I had my Radio Shack Hewlett Packard Palm clone. I played calendar and word processor on it, and address book. I'm not making fun of you, Darkstar. I promise I'm not. I'm just laughing at the idea of it. You realize they didn't have PDAs in the 70s, son. There was no Palm to clone back then. Num num num. Didn't. Oh, brother. Knives make a great beard scratcher. If you ever got an itch that your fingernails just can't get to, get you one of these. Good for what ails you. Anyway, what else y'all want to talk about? You got me here for another 42 minutes anyway, or 52 minutes. You got me here for another 52 minutes. What is the most annoying game soundtrack? I kind of want to say Super Hide-Lide. Or Virtual Hide-Lide. Or even the NES Hide-Lide. Hide-Lide was just not known for its music. Even though the original Hide-Lide, its music was basically a rip-off of the Indiana Jones theme. It was still terrible. Because, there wasn't much to it. It didn't even sound like it had multiple instruments. It was just do 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 do. If your deck is steamy, you should get it checked. Oh! Are you clean frame, the Dice Man? And it's like I've been telling you guys, I mean, I know the donations aren't coming the way they used to on here, but every dime that you guys send me, I spend it on stuff for the channel. Like I finally got the check from YouTube for the money that they owed me, and I immediately turned around and bought an additional 5 terabyte hard drive that I could use to store game footage capture from my PS5. Because it wouldn't allow me to store it on the same drive I was using to store the games like the PS4 would. So I needed an additional drive. So I used the YouTube money from y'all's donations to purchase a new drive for it. So I got me a 5 terabyte for $100. This 7thCast title is A1. A1? Oh, Sony buys Bungie. Don't care. Yeah, I get the feeling you don't care either, Nancy. Do you think AVGN should have reviewed Irritating Stick after doing a box art review of it? Yeah, because it's a bad game. The game is terrible. Hey, 7th, I beat Tales of Arise. Cool, I have it and haven't even started it yet. Which game did you think would get a DBTS, but you ended up being surprised by it? That hasn't happened yet. The most annoying video game soundtrack for me would be Hong Kong 97. I don't even consider that a real game, though. Thoughts on modern games getting boring? It's because everyone just keeps reusing the same tropes. What's your take on resellers becoming the norm within the retro gaming community? Well, I don't sell nothing, J-Chip. I know the Game Chasers sold some of their stuff to fund the movie. If there is like some kind of rising trend of new retro channels that are about reselling instead of collecting, I haven't seen them. I don't know why you would watch that. Is next gen overrated boring for you so far? Not really. I mean, I would have liked for there to have been more titles in the first year. You know, I think it was a little bit dry. But I don't think I felt the effect of it as much because I own multiple systems. But I wouldn't call it boring. Maybe just a little lackluster. Yes, I have an Xbox Series X. Do you like racing games? Not especially. Pretty much the only racing game I like is Burnout Paradise. For some reason, that game got its hooks in me and it's never let go. Do you remember GameStop asking for Battletoads? No, I don't know what you're talking about there. Do you like the soundtrack of the Sly Cooper series? I don't remember it enough to be able to say, so I would guess not. I don't remember disliking it. I just don't remember, like, you know, if you asked me to think of the Sly Cooper theme, I wouldn't be able to recall what it sounded like. Good evening, Biggin. Any 7th level NFTs hitting the market soon? Hell no. Hell no. I ain't got time for that kind of thing, and I don't believe in it anyway. I don't believe in it. I don't support it, so I'm certainly not going to try to make money off of it. I don't trade cryptocurrency. I don't trade anything. I don't even buy and sell stocks. Closest to any of that I'm in is I have a 401k with my employer. Thoughts on Dying Light 2? Haven't played it. Don't have it. 8th has it digitally, but that means I can't play it because it's tied to his account. Still trying to find an Xbox Series X. What would be the best option to get one? Just go on to Twitter and subscribe to, follow all those Twitter guys that let you know when these retailers are going to get another drop of the console. And when they send out a notice saying, Walmart's getting a shipment in tomorrow, just go on the website and start refreshing that page until it says that they're available and buy one. That's how I got my Series X. That's how my friend Brian helped me get a second PS5 for 8th. What was your first Ghost experience? The one that I've talked about numerous times at the hidden, unmarked graveyard behind an insane asylum in Georgia. I still don't know what NFTs are. Non-fungible tokens. It's basically like the scam of art dealerships put online in a lot of ways. 7th, you've played Dying Light 1, correct? I played a little bit of it. I didn't like it. And the reason I didn't like it was because I did like Dead Island because of its campy B-movie horror comedy vibe that it had going on. and that was missing from Dying Light, and that was my favorite part of Dead Island. So I didn't play Dying Light all the way through because it wasn't keeping me interested. Thoughts on the RTX 3090? Well, I'm still running on a 2060 Super. 8th has a 3080, but I couldn't really comment on the 3090 because I haven't used one. Now, NFTs can be used for other things, but like you can use NFTs to buy and sell real estate and things like that. But that's supposed to be like more secure and less regulation and whatnot. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. I don't agree with it. I think it's a bad idea. The further our lives get tied to, this intangible online metaverse, the worse things are going to get for us, and by the time we notice it, it's going to be too late. Everything, the way the world is moving right now, it's like in another 20, 30 years, we're all going to be like those fat people floating around in Wall-E. That's what we're all going to turn into. Because we're going to end up having entire generations that care more about their online life than the real world. I don't believe there's a rumor that Tom Cruise will be like a multiverse Doctor Strange. I mean, I could see him doing that to try to keep himself relevant, but I don't know why he would do that. 7th, did you hear? Because that, to me, that would be like Tom Cruise showing up as Austin Powers in Goldmember. It would just be for laughs. 7th, did you hear the news of some Twitch streamer that scammed his... Yeah, I heard about that. The only reason I heard about it is because I'm subbed to Review Tech USA, and he did a video about it. I didn't watch it, but I saw it in my feed. You know, no offense to Rich, but I only watch his videos if it's a topic that interests me, because nowadays, you know, he'll do videos about stuff that's not tech related, that's not directly gaming related, and when he does his drama stuff about, you know, like for example Keemstar or whatever, I don't watch any of that crap because I don't care. It's not what I sub to his channel for. If you could go back to the good old times, which era would you go back to? For me, it would be there. I'd go back to the 80s. I go back to the 80s. I enjoyed the 80s. There were some things about the 2000s I enjoyed. Not as much as I enjoyed the 80s, though. 80s was a fun time. Hard to describe it. And the movies and TV shows out there that take place in the 80s, they don't recapture it very well. They get like the base surface of the vibe of the 80s. You know, oh, everyone's wearing bright colors. Everyone's wearing Hobie t-shirts. You know, it's very superficial. Even Stranger Things, it's very superficial in how it tries to capture what the 80s were like. You just had to be there. Why is G4 BSing so much? Because they don't want to go out of business. That's why. Do you have a favorite one-hit wonder song? What was that band? Hang on a second. Probably that song My Own Worst Enemy by Lit. That'd probably be my favorite one-hit wonder. That or Oh, I know what my favorite one is because it actually showed up in the soundtrack of Peacemaker. And that's Turn Up the Radio by Autograph. That's my favorite one hit wonder song. Turn up the radio. Do you think the current modern time really sucked compared to the 80s? Yes. What game took the longest time for you to beat? I can't think of a single game that ever took me more than 100 hours. Like maybe 120 hours, and that was Skyrim. Because I didn't just beat it, I platted it, I 100%ed it. How well did the reboot of It capture the 80s? Not really, because technically the only thing that really harkened to the 80s all that much, and even then it was the late 80s, was the running joke about Ben being obsessed with New Kids on the Block, which that wasn't even from the book, as I recall. Well, it definitely wasn't from the book, because in the book, the kid's childhood took place in the 50s, not in the 80s. They changed it for the movie. Hi, Ultra Steel. 80s just had a totally different vibe, man. Just totally different vibe. For one thing, you got more excited about TV shows like Transformers, G.I. Joe, whatnot, because you didn't have them at your fingertips anytime you wanted to watch them. You had to be there at the right time when it was showing it, or you missed it. So it made it more important to you. When you have, every TV show and every movie that ever made at your fingertips, where as long as you've got the right service, you can watch it anytime you want, it's not as special. But if you're going to find out what happened to Optimus Prime that day, your ass better be home from school by 3:30, so you could plop down in front of the TV and turn on Channel 61, or at least Channel 61 where I grew up. I mean, on the cable box, it was Channel 11, but it was called Fox 61. Well, not until late 80s. Prior to that, it was just WDSI TV 61. It was a locally run channel. That was where you watched G.I. Joe and Transformers and He-Man and Mask and all that stuff. If you weren't home when it was on, unless you had a VCR program to record it, you weren't seeing it. Hi, Ultra Steel. Can we get your best Sling Blade? I can't do Sling Blade anymore. I used to do Sling Blade pretty good, but it started to hurt my throat. Started to make it would actually hurt my throat to try to do that voice. What do you think is the dumbest cartoon? 99% of what's been on Cartoon Network and Adult Swim over the last 20-something years. Cartoons, I mean, I know that a lot of the cartoons in the 80s were just toy commercials with plots, but some of them were just more fun to watch than what comes out now. I would take that original run of G.I. Joe and that original run of Transformers over almost anything made for kids that comes out these days. It's just trash. Optimus Prime feels like Captain America. Well, when Optimus Prime first showed up in the original episodes of Transformers, he was more like John Wayne. It wasn't until Transformers the movie that he became this wise warrior sage who gives out insightful advice and whatnot. In the original show, he was more of a John Wayne type. You know what you are, Megatron? You're junk. That's all you are, just junk. That's an actual line from like the first 3-part miniseries of the Transformers. That's an Optimus Prime line. Like I said, he didn't become this wise warrior sage character until Transformers the movie. What's your favorite sitcom? Red Dwarf. Can you blow smoke rings? No. Never been able to blow smoke rings. Not on purpose, anyway. I've done it a couple of times on accident. That's one named Shadow said most of those cartoons were reruns in the 90s. I didn't know they were cartoons from the 80s. That's because there were new laws put out in the 90s that restricted what could be made into a cartoon or what could be done in children's programming. And so a lot of the cartoon companies just kind of got out of the business because they didn't want to have to adhere to those laws. And that's why you eventually saw Saturday morning cartoons over time just go away on the main three networks. So you only saw it. I mean, part of it had to do with the fact that Cartoon Network came into existence, and Nickelodeon, but a lot of it just had to do with they didn't want to put up with the laws that had been put in place about educational content and all this other stuff. And so some of these local channels that syndicated everything didn't have a lot of shows to choose from, so they were either importing stuff from Japan and having to pay to dub the stuff from Japan, or they were just rerunning shows from the 80s like Transformers and He-Man and stuff like that. Although there, even in the 90s there were new versions of Transformers and other shows. There was Transformers Armada, there was a 90s He-Man show that was really felt more like a remake of Flash Gordon. There was a new G.I. Joe show that was terrible. I don't know why they changed Optimus Prime, but he went from being kind of a gung-ho, John Wayne type of guy. Even Optimus's accent was a little bit different in the first 3 episodes. But then you went and watched the movie, and it was one shall stand and one shall fall. It was just, they gave his character a lot of gravitas that he didn't necessarily have in the original 2 seasons of the show. 7th, guess what? My dumbass locked myself out of my own house throughout the duration of the 7thCast, was still able to watch it, but I couldn't type anything. That's why you always have a spare set of keys, son. I've been trying to drink more water. As the older I get, I don't feel thirsty as much, so I force water sometimes. Okay. How was your place in the last few days? I heard there was a lot of bad snow, ice storm down Texas. We never lost power. It was cold. I didn't drive anywhere. There was ice everywhere, but it's all melted now. We had it Thursday. It was mostly gone Friday. It's completely gone today. G.I. Joe the movie has the best intro of any animated movie ever made. It's pretty fun. It never made it to the theater, though. First time I saw it was my local video store, Video Park, got it on VHS, and I rented it. I still have it somewhere. I think I have it on DVD or something. And I have Transformers the movie on Blu-ray. I've got the Steelbook version, the color-corrected one. The 90s reboot of Johnny Quest. I liked original Johnny Quest. The reboot was kind of meh. Did they change Megatron? No, Megatron pretty much stayed the same right up until the movie when he got turned into Leonard Nimoy, but Galvatron. But, Megatron from episode 1 all the way up to the movie was the same. Did I like the Bumblebee movie? Yeah, I liked it. I mean, plot structure-wise, it was a ripoff of E.T. the Extraterrestrial, but I liked it. What's your favorite Amazon superhero show, The Boys or Invincible? I like The Boys. Invincible's good, but I like The Boys. It's a good dark show. And I mean, Invincible is dark too, but I just get kind of a Watchmen vibe from The Boys. To me, The Boys is what the Watchmen TV show should have been and wasn't. Seventh, since you like content on serial killers, you ever see anything on Eileen Wuornos? What do you think of her? I don't know. I mean, I've seen the movie Monster, and I've watched a couple of documentaries on her. I don't find her as interesting as some of the others. I mean, more than being a traditional serial killer, she just struck me more as a hooker who killed her Johns so she could steal their cars and their money, as opposed to someone who was compelled to kill. Why does Sonic the Hedgehog not play as good in 3D as opposed to 2D? Because Sonic was built around speed, and to be able to go at the speed Sonic does in 3D games, traditionally you've had to have a track of some sort for him to run down, which makes them far more linear than other 3D platformers, and so it limits exploration and whatnot. And they tried to fix that with Sonic Adventure by having, the town area where you could run around and explore in it, but then all the levels were just on a track. So it almost made it feel like a racing game as opposed to a platforming game, and that's part of what makes it hard to do Sonic in 3D. We'll see what this open world one's going to be like. That's interesting. I never got into Trailer Park Boys. I know it's really popular, but I just haven't gotten into it. We're down to the last 30 minutes, folks. 30 minutes and $44 short. Unless we get a couple of $20 donations in the next 30 minutes, we ain't extending the night. I'm beginning to doubt that'll ever happen again. We're about to go a straight year without it happening, which has never happened before. I've pre-ordered Horizon Forbidden West for 8th. I'm going to wait and see on Sifu. Did you like the anime Trigun? Yes, and I like the Trigun animated movie too. What's the main reason the Vita failed? Cost and bad marketing. And also the cost of the memory. Sonic's whole concept of just being the fastest thing ever just didn't lend itself well to a 3D platforming environment unless you put him on rails so that you wouldn't constantly be smashing into things and killing the sense of speed. Sonic without speed is just another mascot-driven 3D platformer. The speed is what his character was built around, and so I don't really know how this open world Sonic game is going to be. I'm very curious to see actual gameplay of it. 7th, in your experience, has gaming enhanced your reaction speed to stuff in real life? Not especially. I mean, before I permanently damaged my left arm, I think it helped me with my guitar work. But other than that, not really. I think the pandemic's impacted a lot of us disposable income-wise. You're probably right. I've hated Sony ever since the Vita failed. Are you into Telltale games? Not really. Because they don't even feel like point-and-click adventure games. They just feel like movies where you occasionally make a choice. Sonic versus Crash, who's better? I never have really been big into Crash, to be honest. Is Sony buying Sega a possibility? Well, I mean, anything's a possibility, but I would think if Sega was gonna allow themselves to be bought by anybody, it would be Microsoft, since they've had such a close relationship with Microsoft over the last 20 years. What's the most overrated console to you? The Neo Geo. Everyone that's into retro collecting really wants one, but when you look at its library, sure, the graphics looked good for the time that it came out, but its library was mostly fighting games. I mean, yeah, it had some other stuff. It had, a couple of sports games, and it had, Metal Slug, Contra ripoff type stuff, but you didn't have like a wide assortment of JRPGs, for example, on the Neo Geo. Whereas, if you were an RPG fan and you owned a Super Nintendo or a Genesis, you were in hog's heaven. So for me, the Neo Geo is very overrated, especially what it cost to get one when it came out and what it cost to get one and get the games now. Do you still consider yourself a Sony fan? Oh, absolutely. I don't consider myself a Sony fanboy, but it's still my preference overall. I just think they have better exclusives. Least favorite genre of game? Sports. I don't do sports. I don't play baseball, basketball, football, soccer, any of that stuff. Used to, but when they started getting too heavy into the sim stuff, that's when I got bored with them. Yeah, honestly, the last sports game where I had a lot of fun with it was probably ESPN Football 2K, 2005 or whatever it was. The one that was made by the folks that did the NFL 2K series. Visual Concepts. That was the last time I had actual fun with a sports game. And the last time I had actual fun with a basketball game was Lakers versus Celtics in the NBA playoffs on the Genesis. To this day, that's my favorite basketball video game. What were your favorite scenes from No Way Home? Most of it took place once the other three Spider guys were there. The other two Spider guys were there. Those were my main favorite parts. So like the last third of the movie. Who's greater, MJ or I don't know, because I don't watch sports either. Do you think VR will eventually take over? I don't know. I know they would like it to, because they want people coming home from work and walking around the multiverse. In fact, a lot of them, what they want to see is people in white collar jobs working from home in VR in the metaverse. That's what they want. I mean, a lot of these folks, they literally want the future that's shown in WALL-E, where we're all just sitting all day in a virtual world, not invested in the real world. That's what they want. And it's kind of concerning. Yeah, ESPN 2K5, you have to do a lot of the legwork yourself. That's one of the reasons I liked it. 7th, why is the typical CalArt style so apparent in modern cartoons? It's so overused. Because all of them are coming out of that same school. That or they want to emulate that style, because that style is so easy and cheap to produce compared to like, for example, your average anime, for example. Are you looking forward to Doctor Strange 2? Yeah, I want to see it. I like Sam Raimi as a director. I've liked a lot of his movies. Not all of them. I didn't really care anything about The Gift, for example. Pretty sure that was a Sam Raimi movie, and I didn't like that one that much. But typically, and I didn't really care for Oz the Great and Powerful either, and that was a Sam Raimi movie, which blows my mind. But for the most part, if it has Sam Raimi's name on it, I'm usually confident that I'll enjoy it. $20 minutes left, folks. 20 minutes left. Did you like the movie Dr. Sleep? Yes. In fact, I liked the movie better than I liked the book. The director's cut, anyway. The theatrical version was okay, but the director's cut was way better. 7th, if 8th came home one day with $1 million, would you be excited or concerned for him? Both. I'd be excited for him, but I'd also be worried about where he got it and how. Sam Raimi, Evil Dead series, classics, yes. Do you like one? I think you meant One Punch Man. Yes, I like the One Punch Man anime. Season 2 wasn't as good as season 1, but you know it was still good. It was still good. Anybody remember that show Cornell and Bernie? No, that one doesn't ring a bell. That doesn't ring a bell to me at all. Does not ring a bell at all. Tell you how old I am. I can remember sitting in the living room with my mom and watching reruns of Dark Shadows, that old vampire soap opera. I can remember watching reruns of that with her in the living room. But then again, I can remember being 3 years old and watching Elvis Presley's body being carried in the hearse through Memphis to Graceland to be interred. I can remember watching that funeral procession on TV. 7th was, when 8th was a kid, was he into the Skylander games? Oh, yes. We had tons of Skylanders. We had bags of those things. Sold them all to GameStop. He was into the Lego ones, and he was into the Disney one, too. He had a bunch of the Disney ones. Sold all of that to GameStop. Thoughts on the Rankin Bass Hobbit movie? I saw it as a kid. I mean, it was all right for its time. But, my favorite hand-drawn Rankin Bass animated movie was called The Flight of Dragons. I mean, you think James Earl Jones is evil as Darth Vader? Watch The Flight of Dragons. He plays an evil wizard named Obadon. Now that's an evil dude. That's probably the most evil character that James Earl Jones has ever played. Good stuff. Flight of Dragons. You can get it on. You can buy it on Amazon Prime, and you might be able to watch the whole thing on YouTube. I don't know. Were the Skylander games successful in your eyes? I didn't think they were good games, but I mean, financially, at least the first couple of them made money, or they wouldn't have kept making them. Do you like Woody Harrelson as an actor? Not especially. There's been a couple of things I liked him in. I liked him in Zombieland. I liked him in Natural Born Killers. That's about it. I think he was pretty meh in Venom. Venom 2. Thoughts on Eminem being in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame nominees in 2022? Well, I guess hip-hop is considered like a parallel genre to rock and roll, so I don't have a problem with it. I mean, I wouldn't go so far as saying he's the greatest rapper that ever lived, but he's certainly up there amongst the greatest. And no, I'm not going to say who is the greatest because I don't really have an opinion on it. Do you like The Sandlot? Oh, yeah, I love The Sandlot. Sequels, not so much, but the original was a good movie. 15 minutes left, folks. 15 minutes left. Are you bored of modern day superhero movies? No, as long as it's good. You know, Shang-Chi was passable. Black Widow was pointless and boring. The Eternals was terrible. That's why you don't give an indie director a $100+ million superhero extravaganza. It was not good. And Spider-Man No Way Home was great. So as long as the movie is good, I'm not bored. It's when they start putting out stuff like the Eternals that I start to no. Do you think the talking dog idea is overused? Depends on how it's used. I will say that I have not watched either of the Secret Life of Pet movies all the way through. I tried to watch the first one, and I endured 5 minutes of that rabbit character or whatever, and I turned it off. Do you remember Omicron, the video game that had David Bowie in it? Oh, Omicron, the Nomad Soul. I had it on Dreamcast. It was better on PC, but in fact, I still have it on Dreamcast. It's sitting on my shelf right now. Do you like War of the Planet of the Apes? I like some of the original Planet of the Apes movies, and I liked the trilogy from a few years ago. Did not like the Tim Burton one very much at all. Did you like the movie Kingpin? Oh, Farrelly Brothers with Randy Quaid and what's his name? Woody Harrelson, and it had Bill Murray. Yeah, it's a funny movie. Do you think subscription services in general screwed up gaming media and movie media? It's causing a lot of problems, and I don't really think that people fully understand the ramifications of where all of this could potentially lead. They think, oh, $14.99, I'm getting to play all these games for just $14. This is saving me so much money. There's consequences, and they're not, they're not seeing far enough down the road to understand it. Thoughts on Fast and Furious 9? Couldn't tell you. I never watched any of them past the first one. Just never have cared for them. Did you like the kids' movie Ron's Gone Wrong? Is that animated one with the little robot? Little kind of, I want to say egg-shaped little robot thing that got cracked and broke its programming and whatnot. Yeah, that was pretty fun little movie. Should have gotten a lot more attention than it did, in fact, because I liked it better than some of the more recent Pixar stuff that's come out. Have you tried out RetroArch on the Xbox Series X yet? No. I tend to not bother too much with the whole jailbreaking thing. Why do you dislike Next Gen 720? If you've been watching me long enough, you know why. Are you looking forward to Tom Holland's Spider-Man? Finally feels like the right direction for this iteration. It feels like they used this trilogy of movies as his origin story, that they split the origin story up into 3 films. So I'm curious to see where it's going to go now, because emotionally he's kind of where he is now that Toby's character was, 20 minutes into the first movie. So we'll see. I don't think I missed out on the Fast and the Furious films. I just don't like that stuff. I think I watched one other one. I think there was one other one that I watched, and we went to see it at the theater because For some reason, the person that I went to see it at the theater with picked it out. It was the one... I remember there was a scene where they were all driving across like a frozen lake or something. They were driving across ice. That's all I remember about it. 10 minutes left. 10-minute warning. 10-minute warning. Do you like Batman Year One? I liked the graphic novel. And the animated movie was okay. And of course, Batman Begins borrows several scenes from Batman Year One. So, no, I've never worked at Walmart. Never worked at Walmart. Walmart existed when I was a teenager, but it wasn't that common in my area. You know, there was only a couple of Walmarts in the 90s and where I grew up, and one of them was like over 30 minutes away from me. It was out in Cleveland, Tennessee, and then the other one was back up behind Hamilton Place Mall, but for whatever reason, I never tried to apply there. The last time I asked, 8th, for whatever reason, still prefers the Hobbit trilogy to the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I don't really know why. Do you think a Spider-Man and Daredevil team up against Fisk should happen? At some point, yeah, because both of those characters have a long history with the Kingpin. Does 8th like the Star Wars prequels? He really liked them when I was a kid, and when he was a kid, but nowadays I think it's like he likes Revenge of the Sith and not the other two. You'd have to ask him yourself, and I don't think he's in here anymore. He kind of hops in and out of the chat sometimes on the nights where he actually shows up. Because he'll listen for a while, and then he'll get bored listening to me for 3 hours, and so he'll go do something else instead. Yeah, because Capcom made a dumb choice and started licensing their properties out to Western developers wanting to pick up more of the Western market, and it bit them in the ass. That's how you ended up with that crappy 3D Bionic Commando and whatnot. And what's crazy, that company, Grin, I think they were called, that made that crappy Bionic Commando game, they came this close to making their own Final Fantasy game. And then Square Enix backed out on them. Now, can you imagine that? A Final Fantasy game made by a purely Western developer? Oh man, that game probably, I'm considering some of the other stuff they made over the years, that game was going to be a real shit show. Do you think the PS5 Slim will have a disk drive? I'm kind of doubtful at this point. I mean, we'll see. I hope it does. If it doesn't, I'll probably not bother to buy one. Do you like Hades or any other roguelikes? It really depends on the game. Some of them I like, some of them I don't. I mean, I'll give you an example of one I liked was Rogue Legacy. I liked Rogue Legacy because it was fun and the gameplay was fast. Yeah, I tend to like them better when the gameplay is faster. When it's more kind of slow and plodding like Souls likes, I tend to not get into it as much. I didn't like the DMC reboot. I didn't like it. I mean, the controls were okay. I didn't like the storyline. I thought it had a little bit too much toot in it. And I didn't like the reimagining of Dante at all. Have you ever read the original Brothers Grimm versions of fairy tale? Yeah. Yeah. The fact that they got turned into children's movies and whatnot over the last several decades is pretty mind-blowing when you go back and read some of these original stories. 5-minute warning, folks. 5 minutes. Nobody thinks another hour with 7th is worth $44. I'm kidding with you guys. It's fine. It's fine. I got other things I can go do anyway. I got other things I can go do. Other things I can go do. Yeah. In 2022, as Western RPGs finally beating out JRPGs as the most successful makers of RPGs. Hard to say. I mean, there haven't been that many great Western RPGs come out recently. I mean, you can't point to Cyberpunk. Meanwhile, you got games like Scarlet Nexus and Tales of Arise coming out, or already out. So I think it's just kind of a matter of opinion or taste, really. Does 8th like the Fantastic Beast films? He liked the first one. I don't think either of us liked the second one. What year did your dad retire from being a cop? I can't remember exactly. It was somewhere in the early 90s. Do you know who Eris Avoiding the Puddle is? No idea, no. That's a new one on me. That is a new one on me. Not familiar with that at all. No, no, no. No, no, no. No, no, no. No, 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 no. Oh my, oh my. Up, 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 up. Okay, cool, 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 cool. Cool, 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 cool. Yeah. Okay. Go back here. Do you think Valentine's Day is overrated? Yeah. Yeah. It's just something that companies like Hallmark and Zales Diamonds came up with to make men spend too much money. That's really all it is. Crimes of Grindelwald over Attack of the Clones, which was more boring? Crimes of Grindelwald. I definitely rewatched Attack of the Clones before Crimes of Grindelwald. It just wasn't very good. But that's what they get for letting J.K. Rowling write the screenplay. You know, it's fine for her to come up with the story overline, but they need to hand it to someone who can actually write a screenplay and let them handle it, because that was the main problem with Crimes of Grindelwald. Wasn't the plot, it was the script. Had a bad script. It didn't feel as tight and cohesive as the previous film. It was kind of loose and all over the place. Opinion on people who do nothing all day but shit on either PlayStation or Xbox. Oh, that's people that spend all day on Twitter instead of actually playing the games. Well, I'm on Twitter typically from around 8 to 5 because I keep it open while I'm working. And so, you know, I'll get some work done, look over at Twitter, answer a couple of tweets, go back, do some more work. But, you know, people that aren't working all day, that are on Twitter all day, just talking about video games instead of playing them, I don't understand the mindset. I don't understand the mindset. Probably never will. But, you know, I can point and laugh. I can at least do that. Well, it's 9 o'clock, and we did not hit the donation goal, so this is where I have to say goodbye. I will be back next week, so be thinking about what you want to ask me about. If you have any recommendations on games you'd like to see me review on the other channel, please speak up. And, tell a friend, because we're still not even at 300 subscribers yet. We're just at like 232. So let's kind of get the word out, let people know. New reviews until I run out of the old stuff. We'll be posting either Mondays or Tuesdays. And, I'm working on getting additional content so I can kind of try to keep regular content coming to it where it's not just a once a week thing. I'd like to do at least every other day. I'm working on that. We'll see. But I'll talk to you guys next Saturday, same 7th time.